Welcome to the Y Stage Code, everyone. It's been a while, but in today's video, I want to share with you something I recently purchased, and from the title of the video, to show you what's in my dry cabinet. So some of you are probably wondering, what is a dry cabinet? Well, a dry cabinet is basically a cabinet that acts as a dehumidifier. You'll want to store things such as food, medicine, and for myself, my camera gear. And the main purpose of this dry cabinet is to protect your items from moisture damage. So without wasting any more of your time, let's get right into it. So this is my dry cabinet, and it's where I store all of my filming gear. If you haven't watched my first video where I introduced the filming gear that I first bought when beginning this channel, I'll leave a link in the description below. The brand name of this dry cabinet is called Velbon, and the model is the AD50S. It's basically a 4-level dry cabinet in where you can store your lenses, filters, microphones, and of course your camera. I won't go into the specs as you guys can find all of that on the internet. So the dry cabinet is a very simple construction with an aluminum exterior and a front glass door panel. On the left of the display in red, it displays the temperature, and on the right it displays the humidity level. There are basically only 3 buttons, of course, as you can view, set, and you can adjust the humidity level by pressing up or down. Unfortunately, you cannot adjust the temperature level, and the temperature is basically based on the exterior temperature of the environment that the dry cabinet is in. One of the best things I do like about this, it does have a light in which it can display all of your equipment. As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, you'll want to store some of your electronic equipment in here, because within those electronic equipment, there are certain components such as rubber gaskets and other rubber components that, if exposed to moisture over a long period of time, can actually get ruined and eventually damage your electronic equipment. And for all those who may be interested in buying this dry cabinet or one similar to it, this is the rear of the cabinet. Nothing special at all, just a vent at the rear and a power outlet that takes in a DC plug. And here's what the dry cabinet looks like when the lights are turned on. It does make your equipment look pretty professional. I did forget to mention one last thing about this dry cabinet, and it does have a locking mechanism, but it's something I never use because if someone really wanted to break into this, they easily could. So the moment you've been waiting for, let's discuss each item within my dry cabinet. So we begin on the first level where I store my lenses, and as you guys can see, there's plenty of room here to store lenses in each column. I would say that each column can store at least 2 lenses. So for example, I can actually put the kit lens all the way to the back, and I still have more than enough room for an extra lens. New to my lens lineup is this Sigma 16mm f1.4. Yes, this is the famous lens that a lot of YouTubers use, and I really like it because it gives you a wide angle view, and the sharpness and the color of your images is just excellent. The only downside to this lens, I would say, is that if you're holding your camera in a handheld tripod, because of the weight of this lens, your arms tend to get tired pretty quickly. So I would normally just use this on a normal tripod and not hold it in my hands for too long. The second lens is the lens I've always had since the beginning, and this is the 15 to 45mm kit lens. Since getting my new lenses, I don't really use this lens anymore, as it doesn't really perform well in low light, and it's definitely not as sharp as the others. It's a good beginner's lens, but to be honest, once you get new lenses, you rarely go back to this one. And the final lens, which I don't have here and which is currently on my camera, is the 22mm f2 prime lens. I would say this is my favorite lens because it's just as sharp as the 16mm, but the big advantage of the 22mm is that it's really small and lightweight, so basically it's a bit more versatile, I say, than the 16mm for my use. So the second level is where I keep my filters. I just recently purchased these. Basically these are UV filters for my lenses. Now I know there are some debates on whether UV filters are necessary or not, and whether they degrade the image, the quality of your image, but the only reason I got these was because they were pretty cheap and they act as a protection for your lenses. Basically, this cost me about $5 to $10, and should I knock my lens on a hard surface or nick it against a corner, I'd rather damage this $5 filter rather than my $500 lens. Another filter I have is the 67mm Daisy ND filter. Of course, this is for the Sigma 16mm, and basically that lens is next to impossible to use outdoor on a sunny day unless you have an ND filter on. And the final ND filter I have is for the kit lens. Now you're wondering why I don't have an ND filter for the 22mm prime lens. Is because this was the first ND filter I bought, and just to save some money, and I wasn't really sure because I'm still new into all this filmmaking and photography, I decided to buy this step down ring. So what I'll have to do is, when I want to use this ND filter, I'll put this on the lens first, then attach the ND filter to the step down ring, and that basically gives the 22mm f2 prime lens an ND filter. The other thing I have here is I bought this Ulanzi phone holder because I thought I wanted to use my phone to film in certain situations. It's okay. It has a cold shoe mount and a 3/4 thread which you can attach to a tripod. But if you're out to buy a phone holder, I would really suggest that you not buy these types where it like latches on, because one of the problems is when I attach my phone, then I want to take it off. What then happens is this snaps back, and it snaps back pretty strong, which can injure yourself or damage your equipment. I think if I decide to buy a phone holder in the future, I'm gonna buy one where it has a screw where you can unscrew it, and this actually changes the height, and then to tighten it, you basically screw it in. And the last thing I have on this level, it's a bit silly, and I just keep it in here and to hopefully preserve it, so when I finally return home I can play it. And this is basically an F1 game for the PlayStation 3. Moving on to the third level, this is where I keep miscellaneous stuff such as lens caps. Currently I have an action camera here, but it's not mine, it's just borrowed from a friend because I'm thinking about purchasing an action camera in the future. So there's really nothing special about this level. That's why I keep it relatively thin. So we finally reached the final level, which has the most amount of space because this is where I mainly keep my camera. Another new addition to my gear is this handheld tripod, and hopefully that focus. The brand name is called Andover. It's been really useful because I can actually use this for vlogging, and I usually attach my camera to this when I'm filming outdoors. It's really sturdy, and basically it's made out of, I'm not sure whether it's aluminum or magnesium, but yeah, great addition to the lineup. The next thing I have, which I've discussed in my first video, is the Ceramonic SR M3 shotgun mic. I normally would use this when I'm filming groups of people or I want to capture background noise as well. But it's been very useful for me, and I still use it to this day. Finally, I have my Logitech C930 webcam. This was the first camera I used to begin this channel, as you all know. It's probably not the best camera to use for making YouTube videos, but it's the only thing I had at the time. And if you only have a webcam, then I suggest you use that, because the most important thing is to start. This webcam is really good for things such as Skype calls, you know, learning online, because it gives you a wide angle and all the light adjustments are internally adjusted by the camera itself, so you don't really have to play around with anything. In addition to the shotgun mic I purchased, I now have these wireless mics as well, and these are the Comica Boom XD2 mics. This is the receiver, and it also comes with 2 mics. It does come with 2 lavalier mics as well, but of course I'm just using one. One of the great things about having a wireless mic is that you're not really tethered to anything, and one of the things that I found really great about these mics, they only isolate the speaker's voice in the video, and they don't pick up as much background noise as the shotgun mic. Another benefit of having this set is that this is to use with my camera, and I can also attach these wireless mics to my phone as well using that connector. And if you're wondering what mic I'm using right now, of course I'm using my shotgun mic. So I couldn't end this video without talking about the camera itself, in which I use to film my YouTube videos. Currently I'm using my old setup, which is the Logitech C930 along with the Mano USB lavalier mic. This gives you guys a comparison of the video quality between what it's like to use a webcam and to use an actual camera to film your videos. So here is the Canon M50, and I'm not going to discuss this too much, as you guys can find all the information on YouTube, such as specifications and tips and tricks. For someone who just got into photography just over a year ago, I really would say that the Canon M50 is a great entry-level camera to get yourself into. It's not too expensive, and I even think if you're a student, you can still save up for this. They just recently came out with the Canon M50 Mark II, the second edition of this camera, but the upgrades aren't so high and it's a bit more expensive. So if you're thinking about getting a camera, then I would suggest you get the first edition. But if you want the latest and greatest, then of course get the Mark II. One of the best things about this camera is the size and its ease of use. So that is the Canon M50. And that concludes my video for today, guys. Thanks for watching. If you're interested and you want me to do a more in-depth review of any of the things I own, do please leave a comment below. But until next time, take care.